Well, first, let me say, just to clarify one major point. The West is not in decline. The rest of the world is catching up. So, from a historical point of view, uh, modern economic development, meaning the Industrial Revolution, the industrial age of the 19th century, then the age of electricity.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here with me today. You know, when one of the world's most respected economists starts talking about what he believes to be an irreversible collapse in America, we need to pay attention. Jeffrey Sachs, the guy who's advised governments across the globe for decades, has recently shared some seriously eye-opening insights that he says every single one of us needs to hear. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into what Sachs considers might be one of the most important conversations we'll have this month. Trust me, by the end of this video, you're going to see our current situation in a completely different light, at least from his perspective. Let me paint you a picture of what Sachs says is really happening right now. Jeffrey Sachs isn't just any economist. He's the guy who helped rebuild Eastern Europe after the Cold War, advised the UN on sustainable development, and has been at Columbia University for over 40 years. When he speaks, world leaders listen. And what he's saying now, in his own view, should make all of us sit up and take notice. First, let's talk numbers, and I promise I'll keep this simple. Sachs points out that America's national debt has now hit around $33 trillion as of 2025. That's $33 trillion, $30,000 billion. To put that in perspective, if you spent $1 million every single day, it would take you over 90,000 years to spend that much money. But here's what Sachs is really worried about. It's not just the size of the debt, it's how fast it's growing. According to his analysis, every single day, we add about $3 billion to this debt. That's like buying a new sports stadium every day and putting it on the credit card. Sachs notes that the U.S. is now spending more on interest payments alone than it does on defense. Think about that for a second. More money going to service our debt than to protect the entire country. Now here's where it gets really personal for all of us. Sachs has been traveling around the world, and he often compares what he sees in other countries to what we have here at home. He was recently in China, and he described their high-speed rail system connecting major cities in just a few hours. Meanwhile, here in America, our trains still run on tracks laid down over 100 years ago. The trip from New York to Boston, a distance of about 200 miles, takes 4.5 hours by train. Sachs points out that in China, that same distance would take maybe 45 minutes. Our bridges, Sachs warns, are literally falling apart. The American Society of Civil Engineers gave our infrastructure a C- grade. That's barely passing. We have over 45,000 bridges that are considered structurally deficient. That means, in Sachs' words, they need major repairs or replacement right now. And it's not just bridges. Sachs notes that our electrical grid fails more often than almost any other developed country. When was the last time you lost power during a storm? In countries like Germany or South Korea, Sachs points out, those outages are incredibly rare. Here's another piece of the puzzle Sachs talks about. He says we're falling behind in education, and it's showing up in our workforce. In math and science, American students now rank around 25th globally. Countries like Singapore, South Korea, and even Estonia are leading far ahead. Sachs emphasizes that this isn't just about test scores, it's about preparing our kids for the jobs of tomorrow. He points out that China graduates 4 times as many engineers as we do, in proportion to their population, and that their engineers often get hired by American companies because they're willing to work for less and often have stronger technical skills. Now let's talk about healthcare. And Sachs says this one hits close to home for many Americans. He notes that America spends more on healthcare than any other country in the world, about $4.3 trillion a year. That's almost 20% of everything our economy produces. But here's the crazy part, according to Sachs. We don't get better results than countries that spend half as much. He points out that countries like France, Japan, and Canada have longer life expectancies, lower infant mortality rates, and their citizens don't go bankrupt when they get sick. The average American family now spends over $22,000 a year on healthcare costs, including insurance premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket expenses. For many families, Sachs says, that's more than they spend on housing. Here's where Sachs gets really concerned about our ability to fix these problems. He talks about how other countries can make big decisions and implement them quickly. When South Korea decided to build out their internet infrastructure in the 1990s, they did it in less than a decade and now have the fastest internet speeds in the world. When China decides to build a new city or transportation system, Sachs says, construction starts within months. But here in America, we've been talking about infrastructure spending for decades. We pass bills, then we argue about funding. We start projects, then new administrations cancel them. It took over 20 years just to rebuild One World Trade Center. Sachs argues that this isn't just inefficiency. In his view, it's a breakdown in our ability to govern ourselves effectively. Finally, Sachs talks about something that might be hardest for Americans to accept, what he calls our declining influence around the world. For decades, when America spoke, the world listened. Our currency was the global standard. Our companies dominated international markets. Our culture influenced people everywhere. But Sachs points out that this is changing fast. China is now the largest trading partner for more countries than America is. The European Union is creating its own technological standards that American companies have to follow. Countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America are looking to other nations for leadership and investment. He says this isn't necessarily because other countries dislike America, but because they have other options now. And when you have multiple options, you don't have to accept deals that don't work in your favor. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments below. After hearing Sachs' perspective, what concerns you most? Is it the debt crisis that could affect your savings and retirement? The infrastructure problems that impact your daily commute? The healthcare costs that hit your family budget? Or maybe it's the education system that affects your kids' future opportunities? And here's the big question. Do you think Sachs is being too pessimistic? Or is he just telling us the hard truths we need to hear? I'm genuinely curious about your perspective, so please share your thoughts below. Look, I know all of this can feel overwhelming, but Sachs often says that the people who prepare for change are the ones who thrive when change happens. So let me share some practical steps you can take right now for your finances. Start building an emergency fund if you haven't already. Even $50 a month adds up over time. Consider learning about inflation-protected investments. And maybe most importantly, focus on developing skills that will be valuable no matter what happens to the economy. For your career, look at what skills are in demand globally, not just locally. Technology, healthcare, and skilled trades are likely to remain strong. Consider learning a second language, Spanish, Mandarin, or even coding languages. For your family, focus on education that develops critical thinking, not just test-taking. Encourage your kids to understand how things work, not just memorize facts. And teach them about money management early. This skill will serve them well in any economic environment. For your community, get involved locally. Strong communities weather national challenges better than isolated individuals. Whether it's local government, community organizations, or just knowing your neighbors, these connections matter more than you might think. Here's the thing. I'm not sharing Sachs's perspective to scare you or make you feel hopeless. I'm sharing it because I believe that informed people make better decisions. And when we make better decisions as individuals, we contribute to better outcomes for everyone. Jeffrey Sachs has spent his entire career helping countries navigate difficult transitions. His message isn't that America is doomed, it's that, in his view, we need to face reality and start making the hard choices that will set us up for success in the next chapter of our story. Change is coming whether we prepare for it or not. The question is, will we be ready? If this video gave you some new insights or got you thinking differently about our current situation, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel reach more people who might benefit from these conversations. And if you want to stay informed about economic trends, political developments, and practical strategies for navigating uncertain times, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. I post new content every week, and I'm always working to bring you the most important information in a way that's easy to understand and actually useful. Thanks for spending this time with me today. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, take care of yourselves and the people you love.